Arsabanam cha samvadam Videhasya mahatmanam
Akrapyudaharantimam Itihasam puratanam Arshabhanam cha sammadam Videhasya mahatmana
Others? Atrapi, in this very manner of describing Bhagavat Dharma, Udaharanti is given an example. Imam, this. Itihasam, historical account. Puratanam, ancient. Arshabhanam, of the sons of Rishab. Cha, and. Sammadam, the conversation. Videhasya, with Janaka, king of Videha. Mahat Atmanaha, who was a great broad-minded soul. Translation. To explain the devotional service of the Lord, sages have related the ancient history of the conversation between the great soul, King Videha, and the sons of Rishab. So I say, and you can repeat, to explain the devotional service of the Lord. Sages have related the ancient history of the conversation between the king, between the great soul, King Videha, and the sons of Rishab. Purport. The words itihasam, puratanam, meaning ancient historical account, are significant here. Srimad Bhagavatam is Nigama Kalpa Taror Galatim Palam, the ripe fruit of the desire tree of the Vedic knowledge. In the pages of the Bhagavatam, we find true historical narrations relating to the supreme personality of Godhead and the liberation of the conditioned souls. These historical accounts are not fictitious or mythology, but describe the wonderful activities of the Lord and his devotees that took place in yugas previous to the advent of this puny age. Although mundane scholars have foolishly tried to depict the Bhagavatam as a mythological work on a recent creation, The actual fact is that Srimad Bhagavatam is a perfect transcendental literature describing not only the entire situation of this universe, but also that which lies beyond this universe in both the material and spiritual skies. If one seriously studies the Srimad Bhagavatam, he becomes the most learned intellectual man. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu desires that all pious persons become highly learned by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and then preach the glories of the Lord in a scientific way all over the world. It is essential that we hear these historical narrations, such as the conversation between the Navayogendras and King Videha, with complete faith and submission. Then, as stated in verse 12 of this chapter, even if our formal life is filled with abominable activities, simply by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, we shall be promoted to the same transcendental status as the Lord and his pure devotees. This is the extraordinary power of Bhagavat history, as contrasted with useless, mundane historical accounts, which ultimately serve no purpose. Although mundane historians justify their work on the plea that we have to learn from history, we can practically see that the world situation is now rapidly deteriorating into an unbearable conflict and chaos, while so-called historians stand helplessly by. But the Bhagavat historians who have faithfully heard Srimad Bhagavatam can give perfect and potent instructions for the restoration of a peaceful and blissful world. Therefore, those who are inclined to enrich their intellectual life through the study of history should educate themselves in the historical narrations of Srimad Bhagavatam. This will bring them the perfection of intellectual and spiritual life. Om Gyantam Arindasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Dadanti Swapadantikam. Hey Krishna, Karuna Sindhu, Dina Bandhu Jagatpate, Go Pesha, Go Peka Kanta, Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurange, Radha Vrindavaneshwari, Brishabhanu Stute Devi, Pranamami Hari Priye. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Viradhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Panchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhu devacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So once again, the verse, to explain the devotional service of the Lord. Sages have related the ancient history of the conversation between the great soul King Videha and the sons of Rishabha. So, very potent purport, isn't it? We hear so much about history. History. What is history? History is something that happened and somebody recorded it. Or at least we think they did. Sometimes they change it to fit their motivation, whatever they have. History has been changed. We find that out from time to time. It's like Columbus discovering America. Well, then we find out, no, that's not true. He didn't. It was discovered by Amerigo Vespucci. And then we find out, well, no, it was Leif Erikson who came into North America from the Nordic countries. And maybe that's not even true. That's just what we're telling you is the history from what we think it is right now. So, and people continue to say, history repeats itself. Well, that's true. It seems to do that. Fools will always be fools. a fool today. If he was a fool yesterday, he's a fool today. And the chances are he'll be a fool tomorrow. He will repeat himself. So we have foolish people that are running the world right now. Or at least they're a portion that they can control. We see in this politically charged age, with the change of control of America, it's very interesting how we have so many people on one side. We have so many people on the other side. Each one is saying they're right and the other one is wrong. And the devotee can see, well, you're all fools. This is like going to, what do they call it? An insane asylum. You know what an asylum where they keep insane people. They're insane. They have to lock them up because they can't be allowed to wander around. So we go to such a place, and it's full of crazy people. And they all have some maybe crazy opinions. Sometimes someone may tell you he's Napoleon. Someone may tell you he's Jesus Christ. They're all crazy, you see. So my point is we can't listen to any of them because they're crazy. So this is the state of the world right now. They seem like they know so much. They honestly act like they do, and they all have some impressive credentials. Why, I graduated from this college or that college. And then I got my law degree. Most of the politicians are lawyers. I got my law degree, then I went into politics, and I've been stealing money ever since. But no one has caught me. So right now, the fools are fighting because one group of fools is saying we're going to show how that side has been stealing. And the other side is defensive. Oh, they're worried. You're going to stop our ability to steal the taxpayers' money. And we don't have any way to stop you from stealing taxpayers' money right now. So it's thieves and fools and rogues that are running the world. And half the country is for this one and half the country is for that one. So we get turmoil. There's just turmoil. No, there's no peace. They all talk like they're going to give us peace. And they may even talk about some historical point when their party gave us peace. But there's not going to be peace. There's not going to be any peace in this material world. Srila Prabhupada criticized this United Nations so much. It's failed. It's failed again and again. We have a United Nations, and yet there's still war. There's war going on. And so one country invades another country, and they want some material profit. People in this age are motivated by profit. They want money. And so what is our solution? Oh, we'll help solve the problem, but we get to make money. You see? So it's a money motive. The Vaishyas are in charge of the world. And they're trying to squeeze every bit of profit out of the world that they can. That's what Vaishyas do. These are not righteous Vaishyas, you see. So who is looking out for your benefit? Who is your advocate? You may believe that if I vote for this person or if I vote for that person, they will be my advocate and they will look out for my well-being. But we can see we've had one party in office. Now we have another party in office. Before that, there was another one. When have any of them been looking out for your welfare? They may make you think that they're doing a little something for your benefit. And you may even prosper. You can buy more and more expensive televisions. You can buy more and more expensive telephones. So you think, because I have a better phone and a bigger television on my wall, that I'm doing well. I'm doing so much better. The fact of it is, how much does it take to fill your belly and to make you satisfied? Not very much. I was noticing at lunch yesterday, Tulin was serving out some nice couple of sabjis and some chapati and some dal. I looked, it just doesn't take hardly anything to satisfy us. Why is the world engaged in working so hard to develop more technology and so on, so that we can enjoy on a higher level? Is it really gonna help you? Is it gonna increase your pleasure from eating? You're gonna eat the same thing. We just need enough of it. What about sleeping? Beds are pretty good. I don't think we need to develop beds anymore. Mating has always been the same. Defense? Well, we probably need some defense, but we need defense because some other country might want to steal what we have. They might want to steal our resources. So we have to put more and more money into defense. So the problem is, we're creating so much industry to make so many things that will hopefully increase our enjoyment in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And none of this is needed. It's not needed at all. Srila Prabhupada has told us that again and again and again, thousands of times. Simple living, high thinking. This will make you happy. So if we're going to talk about history, let's look at the time when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was here, about 500 years ago. That was a very wonderful time, wasn't it? And Chaitanya Charitamrita, they don't describe anything better, anything terrible, do they? They don't say it would have been a good time except there wasn't enough food. There's no description. There was plenty of food. There was no place to sleep. There was plenty of sleeping. There was plenty of mating. Plenty of defense. You see? It was a very good time. We didn't have cell phones, televisions. There was not a need. Jai Sisi Gauri Nitai. As a matter of fact, historically, from my memory, believe it or not, but there was a time when we didn't have cell phones. There was a time when we didn't have big screen televisions. You see, in many homes in the Western world, there's a television in almost every room. You see, so, and sometimes they're like really big. They're like, the whole wall is like a television. You see, with expensive sound systems. But there was a time when we didn't have this. And there was a telephone. Everyone had a telephone. Typically, it was at home. Most of the time, it was in the kitchen. It was a family telephone. If you were wealthy, you would have the phone in the kitchen, maybe in the foyer where you go up the steps in the house, if you're a wealthy person. And mother and father would have a telephone on the nightstand by the bed. This is if you were wealthy. And if you went to the average man and said, "Would you like to have a telephone in your pocket?" He would have said, Why? You carry that phone around in my pocket? I have a telephone at home. Why, if I had a telephone in my pocket, people would be calling me all the time. You see? In other words, my point is, there was no need. There was no need for cell phones. But the Vaishnavas wanted to sell you cell phones. So they created a need. And they collected a lot of money to go to the moon. They decided, we're going to tell you we're going to go to the moon, and it's going to take $24 billion, which was a lot of money in those days. And they developed this technology, one of which was the cell phone technology, and so many other technologies that they needed to develop, but they would never be able to use your tax money because you didn't want nor need this technology. But they knew that if they produce it and put it in front of your face, you'll say, oh, I have to have that. Which is exactly what they did. Now that's history. I remember it happening just like that. You see? Producing things that you don't need. You don't need. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't need a cell phone. That was a really good time to be alive. That was a very good time, you see. All these things were not needed. Televisions, cell phones, motor cars. They weren't needed. Now we have a perceived need because they've changed our lives to the point that we perceive that we need this updated technology. You see? So we're caught in the loop. And as soon as you buy, if you buy your new iPhone, within a few months, they're going to sell you another one. It'll probably last you 5-10 years, but they're not going to let you. No, they're going to stick another one in your face. This one is better. How is it better? Well, it takes better pictures. People walk around taking better pictures. You see people everywhere. This is, there was a time when there were no people taking selfies, you know. People didn't walk around with a camera taking pictures of themselves. And everything they saw, oh, click, click, you know. Sometimes people come into, I was amazed a few years ago when I noticed the young people would come into Govinda's restaurant in Tucson, and they would go make their plate of prasadam, and they sit down. The first thing they would do is take a picture of it. I never took a picture. Did you ever take a picture of your food? I looked at that and I thought, why? Well, they wanted to put it on their Facebook page. I'm at Govinda's. Look at this. Oh, you know, this is my breakfast. Look, here's my cat. This is my dog. Pictures, 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 pictures. You know, is this necessary? Do we need to put any effort into doing this? Does it really give us any pleasure? It's a distraction from pleasure, isn't it? Now, the devotees use this technology very nicely. We send pictures of deities, you know, recorded classes, pictures of the devotees, pictures of the TOVP, you know. Well, you can see deities around the entire world. So the devotees are so sly that we manipulate this useless technology and make it useful for us. It's useful for us as devotees, so long as we don't misuse it. There is a tendency to misuse it and do nonsense with it. But still, we, the devotees, are using it properly. For the most part, I think we are, you see. So, what we really need, what the world really needs, is to experience the historical fact of the world through the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, what really happened? Who were the real heroes? Who really forged this world and made it into what it is? How did this really come about? In other words, let's get an account of what happened. How did this world become the way it is? Who did it? And get away from the illusory versions that we've had shown to us again and again. And they keep changing. They actually change what they say is history. Or at least they modify it. They don't get it right. And it's common for them to say, well, Srimad Bhagavatam is just mythology. Why, it's something that came about in the last few hundred years. It's not ancient. They want to discredit Srimad Bhagavatam. They're not able to, but they want to. They feel like it would help them. If you have the real truth, then you're going to take away my truth. And if I lose control of the truth, if I lose control of history, if you don't believe my history and you start believing the history of Srimad Bhagavatam, then I'm going to lose you ultimately as a customer. I'm not going to be able to get into your pockets anymore because you will lose a perception of need for my nonsense products, my nonsense way of life. Isn't it like that? We're controlled by the Vaishyas. Maybe not so much in India, but in other parts of the country, of the world. In the West, they change the style of clothing every so often, just to get everybody to buy new clothes. You see? The whole style. Well, I've seen it happen I don't know how many times in my life. One style of clothing all of a sudden is gone. Nobody wears that. You should wear this. Who decides? Well, everybody's wearing this. You know, everybody's wearing the new style. Oh, well, then give me some too. You see, we're controlled. We're slaves of the Vaishyas. They own us. We work for them. They throw some money at us and we spend it right back. We give it right back to them. It's a vicious circle and we can't get out of it. You see, except for the devotees. Why, the devotees can develop communities like Mayapur community, like this community. Well, we're outside, for the most part, we're outside of this economic picture that's going on in the world. We don't need their junk. We don't need their styles, do we? Well, you look just like associates of Lord Chaitanya, don't you? Your style hasn't changed. So, the devotees have a way, when we're practicing Krishna consciousness, we have a way of being immune to this. We're outside. Oh, thank you. We're outside of this. We have a community that doesn't depend on the styles. We will use their technology for our benefit. We'll use it for our benefit. We'll use it to broadcast festivals and classes and music out of this community to around the world. We don't abuse it. We use it. They had no idea. The developers of the internet had no idea that we, the devotees of Krishna, were going to be sending pictures of the Supreme Godhead around the world. Why, immediately the devotees grasp this technology and start to use it properly in a way to help everyone. And so it's essential that we not only realize, but celebrate again and again the value of Srimad Bhagavatam and what's contained within the Bhagavatam. The real history of the world. What really happened? How did the world, what phases did the world go through? And what can we learn from it? We can learn a lot from history if we know the right history, if we know the truthful history. Srimad Bhagavatam gives us that truthful history. And we can tell what phases did the world go through? What phase are we in now? How should I be preparing for later on? You see, these are very valuable things to know. What historian will tell you that we're in Kali Yuga? They don't care. All they know is that this is the better age. Well, it's not the better age. This is the worse age. But they want to tell you, no, it's the best because we give you technology. We're making your life better. Life isn't better. I remember in the 1960s, manufacturers started to produce household appliances in America. Many, many household appliances. Appliances that would make your coffee for you. Electronic can openers. Electric toasters to toast bread. And so many things, so many. And they were sold to the housewife saying, these will give you more time. If you buy these appliances, if you fill your house with these appliances, it will make your life so easy, you will have leisure time. Now, did we get leisure time? No. People are busier than ever. They're not working in the fields anymore. Srila Prabhupada said, if someone has 4 acres and a cow, he can live. And only work 3 months out of the year. Isn't that amazing? Of course, you've got to milk your cow every day. Twice a day, you've got to milk the cow. But how bad is that? Feed the cows some spinach. I noticed last night I was feeding the spinach to the cows. They love it. And I'm thinking, all you want is a little bit of grass, some spinach if you can get it. Pumpkin, they love the pumpkin. They're so easy to deal with. They don't make any demands on you at all. They'll take pretty much what you'll give them, you see. So you have 4 acres and a cow, and you work 3 months out of the year. You have to plant the fields, and then you have to harvest. And there may be some maintenance as you go on, but it's not hard work. It's not hard at all. What's happened in America is the same thing that I hear is happening in India right now. People are moving, they're leaving the farm, they're leaving their 4 acres and cow and going into the city because it's easier to go to work 10 hours a day with a 2-hour commute. You see how it's so sad that people have been cheated? You give me this land of yours, we'll deal with the cow, we'll give you some money, move to the city, get some education, and you can ride the bus every day to and from some ugra job. You see, this is the nature of the world, isn't it? And so many people, more and more people are being drawn into the city. Still happening in America. Most of them have already surrendered. They have agribusiness, big farm companies that farm thousands and thousands of acres. Tractors that cost like 300,000 American dollars. and they'll plow a big field in no time. So, and the owner of that land is working in the factory, thinking, well, now I can afford a really big television and smaller TVs in other rooms. And everyone in my family, even my children, they have the latest phones. And we're driving a great car. And we're so miserable that we're getting a divorce. It doesn't work. The lifestyle doesn't work. The lifestyle of Kali Yuga does not make people happy. It can't make you happy. It misses the point. So we have to give the Srimad Bhagavatam. We have to become expert in the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. And we have to share this knowledge with any of those fortunate people who will listen. We have to find people who will listen. We have to distribute these books. Not only that, but we have to speak these books. Before I'm interested in your philosophy, though, I want to take a look at you. How do you live your life? How is this book influencing the way you live? What kind of a person are you? How do you deal with me? How do you deal with your wife? How do you deal with your children and your neighbors? I want to see that. If we find somebody, I've often said, if we find a really functioning grihastha family, husband and wife that love each other and are devoted to each other, and children who are respectful to their parents, and the family is a happy unit together, that is strong preaching. When you have a good family, when it works, people may ask you, what is your philosophy in life? Now, it's a little easier to preach when people ask you, what is your philosophy, isn't it? Or let's say they haven't met you, but they meet you and you're preaching this Srimad Bhagavatam. Whether you're married or not, they're going to look at you, aren't they? They want to know, how is this working for you? It's that question that we ask a lot. How's that working for you? Well, I'm a Hare Krishna. I chant Hare Krishna. How's that working for you? What is that doing to your life? I expect, if you say it's so good, I expect to see something better about you than the average guy. Not just another guy with another book or another philosophy. No, I expect. If you say this is the greatest thing, then how's it working for you? How is it changing your life? How are you living? Do I want to be like you? So the devotee is given this responsibility to live a life, to live a great life, to live a life in such a way that people want to have a life like yours. And then they'll read your books. They'll come to your temple. They'll want to be like you. And if you let the teachings in Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita work on you, you will have such a life. Everyone will want to be like you. This is fact. I'm not making this up. This is absolute fact. And if you don't live a better life, then why should I buy your book? Why should I come to your temple? Why should I want to be like you? Why do I even want to associate with you? You see? So we have to let these books work and change our lives. So I should probably pause now and ask if there are any questions or comments. Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much for the wonderful. So this is a question regarding you were mentioning that devotees are very smart in using the technology in the service of Krishna. So generally it is observed that we start a good note with a good intention that we are going to use things for the service of Krishna. But with passage of time, the Rajoguna takes over and we become infatuated by these things and become distracted. And so how to tackle this problem? And many times we justify also that we don't accept also by getting infatuated and getting distracted in the name of using it for the service. We go completely out of track. So how to tackle this?
It's a very good question. It's a very important question, important subject. In other words, your question is, if I'm using this technology for my Krishna consciousness, but then I get tempted to use it for some nonsense, how do I guard against that? Oh, bless you. Is that the question? Yeah. So, we have to stick together. It's like if you become sick. Oh, bless you. If you become sick, don't you think that Prabhu will notice? Oh, it looks like you're getting sick. Can I get you some medicine? Can I help you? We would do that for each other, wouldn't we? So this misuse of technology, this is also a sickness. It may not be a sickness of the body, but it's a sickness of the mind. We have to have that same desire to help. We have to tell. We can see the symptoms. Prabhu, the things that you're putting on Facebook, they're really material. They're crazy. Why are you doing this? You see? If you see someone that's doing something that harms their health, wouldn't you say something to them? Ooh, that's not good for you. So it's the same thing. We have to help each other in that way. In other words, we all have to stick together. We need association, close association. I'm not saying that we watch everybody, but when we notice something that's out of the norm, that's not good for the devotee, for their devotional service, for their devotional attitude, we should mention it. Not that we start gossiping about the person and tell everybody, hey, did you hear that? No, we don't want to do that. But perhaps discuss with management and discuss with the person. Discuss. Let's say, let's help. Let's try to help like that. So we have to stick together. We depend on each other. That's what a community does. Community carries everyone else. The whole community carries the whole community. We're all being carried by one another. What's the use of having a community if the community doesn't fill in the gaps that I need? And then I do my best to fill in and help wherever I can, wherever I'm needed. That's what a community does. It's not just people who live together. It's not just people who have the same address. Community is like a family, a very close family. So we got to work on making our family closer and closer and closer. How do we get it? What's the ingredient that we add to make our family closer? There's two, but one is love. We have to love each other. Along with that will come respect. Prabhupada said love and trust. Deal with each other in love and trust. I mean, if we just follow the science that's been given to us, everything will be just fine. It'll be better than we can even imagine. And Prabhupada's words are so genius. Deal with each other in love and trust. So if you have to tell someone that I think that your activity on social media is not good for you, you have to do it with love and trust. And respect. I still respect you. I still love you. But I'm puzzled at what you're doing, the nonsense that you're doing. You see what I mean? With love, trust, respect. If we don't have those ingredients, then it's just going to start a war. It's going to start an argument. Then the person will feel like they're being pushed out. You're pushing me out of the community. Oh, you think you're better than me. I mean, if someone is getting into nonsense, that means they've probably stepped into the modes. Before you noticed it, they'd fallen into the modes. So they're in the mode of passion. So you have to be very careful how you deal with them. They get angry very easily. You see. But if you deal with them with love and trust, respect, then you'll have a better chance of working it out. Is that a good answer?
One minute. So that's fine, but many times, for the people who are in the role of sadhu, so they're adopting these things for the service of Krishna. But when the new people who are just getting connected to bhakti path, they see these things, that they don't understand the purpose behind those things, and they think that using these things is just normal. There is nothing wrong with that. And obviously, the other person may be using it for service and not misusing it. But then the new people, they adopt these things and then they completely misuse it because they are not understanding the purpose why the sadhus are using or seniors are using those things. So how to safeguard them?
So people see sadhu and they're using some technology and they think, oh, that makes you just a normal person. Some people will think like that. I remember back in the 70s, a godbrother of mine, sannyasi, was giving a class. And there was a person there, and they were two people, they were talking about him being a sadhu. And they're trying to find fault. And they noticed, this is Drishtadyumna Swami, he was wearing a wristwatch. And so this one man said, see, he's wearing a watch. He's no sadhu. So there's envious people, and they will find fault no matter what. Even if there is no fault, they'll find it. They couldn't hear his words. They didn't know him well enough to see how he lived his life. They were judging him because he wore a wristwatch. And if it wasn't for that, it would have been something else. Maybe shoes. He shouldn't wear shoes. I don't know. People can find fault with anything. So there are some people who will find fault in the sadhu who might be using technology in a very, very wonderful way. Many devotees use technology, social media especially, in a very wonderful, wonderful way. Our temples are using social media in a wonderful way. Classes, festivals, announcements of upcoming events, portals so that you can donate. We're using it in so many wonderful ways. There will always be envious people who will say, I find fault with that. Why do they do it? I don't know. How do we get them get past that? They have to get to know you. They have to get to know you. Once they get to know you, they'll see, oh, well, you're not misusing it. You're using technology. You're not misusing it. Does that make any sense? We have to get closer with people. We have to befriend people. Those that we're preaching to, we have to become friends with them. And then they'll want to be part of the family. What else? In the back there.
Prabhuji Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
We always go for the pleasure, basically, in the life. And when we see like more pleasure, to go for the pleasure and more pleasure, we get some kind of sorrow in the life, and sometimes like we are alone. Apart from that, family, like for me, I come out from my family and I do the job here in outside somewhere in Kolkata or maybe in other city. So basically, we come for the pleasure from somewhere, and we see right now we are stuck in somewhere which is not pleasure. So why are we always going for the pleasure instead of the internal happiness, which is the most important for the each and every life? But the other thing, the money is also similarly important for living our goods. And if I make a family, like I have a child, wife, and etc. At that time, we not decided like, oh, the pleasure is like that, and we more focus on the pleasure instead of the internal. So now, why I coming in this position? So I am looking for the internal happiness instead of the pleasure. So,
good. That's a good question. Very intelligent question. The nature of the living entity is to feel pleasure. Pleasure, bliss. Bliss is pleasure. Bliss is like the highest pleasure. It's beyond happiness. So you, the living entity, you're Sat, eternal, Chit, full of knowledge, and Ananda, always blissful. Now that we're in this material world, there's a barrier between us and our bliss. So we're always seeking it in one way or another. I'm thinking that if I do this, I may do some austerity. That will give me pleasure. The father may be thinking, if I do some austerity, then I can give pleasure to myself and to my family. You see? So then he's willing to accept some austerity to ultimately get the pleasure. It's always worked that way. That's the nature of the material world. The devotee turns austerity into pleasure because we're working to serve Guru and Krishna and our devotee families. We will perform austerity to do this service to Guru, Krishna, community, family. But that austerity is pleasure. It's a pleasure to do it for those that you love, isn't it? And it's not like you don't want to do it. You actually will do it. And you'll make the best of it. It's like the book distributor. Well, how is it pleasure to go out into the hot sun and distribute books all day long? That's an austerity. And yet the book distributors love it. because it makes Guru and Krishna very happy. And it saves the lives of the fallen conditioned souls who take your books. You see, it works like that. For the devotee, when we do something, if we perform an austerity out of love, then that austerity becomes blissful. I mean, look at the book distributors that have distributed books for decades, and they're still doing it. They still love it. They wouldn't do anything else. You see? And it looks hard. And it is hard. But it's not hard because they love doing it. There's a saying that I've heard that if you do something that you love, then you'll never have to work a day in your life. Meaning, if your business is something that you love, it's not work. You see? So if the austerity that you do is something you do as an offering of love, then it's not so much of an austerity. You see? Take away the element of love, and it's just a struggle for some enjoyment. You see? Just a struggle for enjoyment. Even then, people get attached to doing it. The statistics are that so many people, when they retire from a job that they're attached to, they don't live very long. They die. They have no reason to live anymore. They lose their will. You see? So that's why Prabhupada said, I'll never retire. We're always going to do our service for Krishna. Why would we stop doing the service that we do for Krishna and Guru? We may have to do less because our bodies may become frail and the bodies just can't produce like they used to when we were young. But the mind is still wanting to serve in so many ways. But to quit and just do nothing, that's not pleasure. What is pleasure? To give pleasure to the Supreme Lord. That's how the living entity tastes pleasure. Give pleasure to the Supreme Lord and you taste pleasure. Give pleasure to the Lord's devotees and you'll taste pleasure because that gives him pleasure. You see? Give pleasure in the form of spiritual enlivenment to the fallen conditioned souls. That will give you pleasure. But to just stop and enjoy will give you no pleasure at all. It may for a while. Maybe it'll last a day or two. That's it. Some of these wealthy business executives, they retire and they've got nothing to do but play golf. They're not fulfilled. Why, at one time they used to do big service, and now they're hitting a ball. You know, they're not fulfilled. They have no reason to live. The devotee has a reason to live. We have a reason to go on. We're driven by our desire to serve. So, is that a good answer?
Yes, yes. One more question to this, right? Not related to this, but somehow it's come to our mind. Like, when we started something, like we started to connecting with the Krishna, or starting to become devotee like that. So, in some time, it's come to our mind, or sometime like we are distracted from this particular connect services I have earlier. Similarly, the other thing also in the life, always we have some desire thing to achieve that one or something. But after some time, we got distracted. So it is a natural process of the distraction of the memory, which is we are forgetting something like that. So it is simple way, or the Krishna want to distract us. Like, what is this? We always getting distracted. Like most of the people, I won't say like myself only, but most of the people we see like they are connected, and after some time they got disconnected. So it's what? This is like a examination. We are giving that, and we are not achieving that particular.
Well, it's like when we first come to this material world, we're very distracted by the illusory energy. We're distracted by Maya. And that's her kindness, because if we came here and we weren't distracted, we came here to get away from Krishna. And if we're not distracted by Maya, then we're going to be missing Krishna. But we don't want Krishna. We want to get away from Krishna. So Maya is here distracting us. So this distraction into the material energy is illusory. We're attracted and distracted by an illusion, by something that's not, you see. So then when we start to associate with the devotees and we start to hear and start to chant Hare Krishna, then we start to get distracted by Krishna, you see. Material energy, the illusory energy is over here, but then we start to get attracted by Krishna, you see. So we're distracted from illusion by reality. Reality distracts us from illusion. Illusion distracts us from reality. You see? It's like going into a dream when we're attracted by Maya, by illusion. It's not real. But boy, it sure looks real. Have you ever had a dream when you wake up and you're having a dream and it seems real? Like it was really happening, and you wake up and you think, what happened? Wow, that's strange. That seems so real. So even though something is illusory, it can seem real. We can believe it. When you were in that dream, you believed it. You're surprised when you wake up that it's not real. So, but reality is even more attractive. Reality is so much better, you see. So to be attracted away from the unreal by the real is a much more pleasurable experience than to be attracted from the reality by the unreal. Does that make any sense? You know, to be attracted by illusion is common. It's normal. It's what this place, this material world is made of. It's happening every minute of every day. People are being distracted by something that doesn't even exist. And the reality is right here. Things that really do exist is right here. So that's what's happening to the devotee. We start getting distracted from illusion by reality. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
All right. Good question.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for your wonderful class. I wanted to ask, yesterday also you were speaking, and the aspect of enviousness. So how should one work with it? Like, because that's what has brought us to this material world.
Well, we have to try our best to catch ourselves. We have to be our own best friend because we're close, with ourselves, or we should be. So when we find ourselves slipping into enviousness, just ask yourself, are you envious? And it's okay to admit, yeah, I am. I'm envious. We find ourselves finding fault with someone who's doing some nice service. And then you just ask yourself, what is this? Are you envious? Yeah, I am. If you admit that you are, you can get over it. Yeah, I am. It's temporary. I'm envious because this person has such a nice kirtan. Well, he's getting all the attention. Everyone is happy when they hear his kirtan. And I'm starting to find fault with it. Well, I'm probably envious. It's okay. Admit it. And that way you can push it away. You'll get rid of it. The worst thing to do is to try to redefine envy. No, I'm not envious. It's just that I have higher standards and this person's not meeting my standards. No, don't let yourself do that. Be a friend to yourself. Just say, my dear self, you're envious. And then admit, yeah, you're right, I am. I am. Once you admit it, you can deal with it. If you don't admit it, it'll go untreated. That's dangerous. It's like someone was telling a joke. The wife was complaining because her husband liked to argue all the time. And so the doctor said, well, why don't you just tell him? You like to argue so much. And maybe that will work. And so she said to her husband, you know, my dear, you like to argue a lot. And he said, no, I don't. Started arguing. Now, it would have been better if he just said, oh, really? Do I? Oh, maybe I do. Well, I can fix that. But until I admit it, I can't fix it. If we admit it, we can fix it. If we don't admit it, we can't fix it. All right. Once again, I've talked too long. So I think we should probably wrap it up, huh? One more? All right, one more. As they say in Mexico, uno más. One more.
Yesterday, regarding chanting, we had a question, and you mentioned that when you were asking that the thoughts in chanting. So generally, I've seen myself that I read in one of the books by Gurujan Prabhu. So Prabhu was saying that even when we are chanting, some thoughts come, and even if it is a Krishna conscious thought, and it has been given by Krishna, then also we should not get distracted by that thought. We should rather chant, because if Krishna wants to give that thought, he can give even after chanting. So why to note it down? Like I read yesterday, you mentioned that we can note those thoughts in between. So I was just confused. Can you clarify how to? Because the mind is generally mind has millions of ideas. It will tell you what is the best thing is this. So many best things are there, but other than chanting, mind likes everything.
Yeah.
So, what do you suggest? How we can be focused in chanting? How we can chant?
Just try to hear the sound vibration that you're making by chanting. And if we get some ideas, and they may be good ideas, and maybe Krishna is giving us those ideas that'll help us in our service. And if we can't tell the mind, let's just put this away until after chanting, the mind may be so excited, no, this is important. I don't want to forget this. So then you may have to negotiate with the mind And as I said, you may say, all right, I'll stop chanting. I'll make a note. And my dear mind, we will, as soon as the chanting is finished, we'll be even better equipped to analyze this idea. After chanting, we'll be even better, more able to deal with this. You see? And that should satisfy the mind. The mind may say, oh, no, I need to... No. I'm giving you, my dear mind, I'm giving you what you want. We will talk about this. I've made a note here. I wrote it down. And so now, join with me and let's relish the holy name. Get the mind to work with us. We should try to get the mind to work in partnership with us and not against us. You know, the mind may say, well, let's go watch some sports. Let's turn on the TV and watch some sports. You can chant later. You can finish your rounds later. Yes, my dear mind, I could. But, you know, the sports are always on. These sports are recorded, aren't they? You can watch them anytime. I mean, you can watch almost anything, anytime, right? So you can tell the mind, maybe you'll get it. Maybe we'll do that, but not now. Now, let's work together and chant. And after you're chanting, maybe you can talk your mind out of watching the sports. It's a useless waste of time. Sometimes when I say that, people don't like to hear that, but it truly is. It's a waste of time. Well, it's good exercise. Okay, all right, then do it. Okay? All right, thank you so much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai.